Can you all think of a team that had a worse 2019 than the mighty Arsenal? Boy, oh boy, did they have a terrible 2019. They missed out on a Champions League spot twice. They had two opportunities to make it into the Champions League, and they didn't. They failed to win their last three games in the Premier League, putting them in fifth place, which obviously isn't a spot for the Champions League. And then they played the Europa League final, and they lost that too. So there was a lot of doubt around the Emirates and Unai Emery. Was he the correct choice for replacing Arsene Wenger? And then a lot of that turmoil carried onto this season that we're in right now. And Arsenal just they looked terrible. The team was passive. They lacked intensity. It was just really bad. And then even the players started to get into it with each other. There was no chemistry, poor results. And then, of course, that led to Unai Emery getting sacked the day after Thanksgiving. Thank God he got sacked. Not so much for him. I'm pretty sure he's a good dude. I don't wish anyone unemployment. But, yeah, I think Arsenal needed a facelift. And then, of course, Freddie Ljungberg came in, and he replaced Unai Emery for a couple of weeks. But there was a lot of uncertainty around Arsenal. Of course, that uncertainty that carried on from the previous season. They just didn't really seem to have a structure or a direction in which they wanted to go. A lot of the fans were asking for Carlo Ancelotti, and they were asking for Massimiliano Allegri, to which I have to say, thank God you guys didn't get either of the two, because those are two completely different philosophies and ideologies compared to the ones that Arsenal has. And the styles would be completely different. It would be a styles clash. So I think Arsenal was well off by waiting and getting their man. And finally, it looked like everything appeared to click because they found a guy who's a former player, a guy who was an assistant manager for Pep Guardiola at Man City, a guy who knows Arsenal as a club. His name is Mikel Arteta. They got him finally in December. He learned the Guardiola system for 3 years, which is obviously more aligned to Arsenal's philosophy of good, entertaining football. And it just appeared to all click because, of course, I think it was pretty obvious for Arsenal fans, for management in Arsenal, and just for the players in general. It's obvious that Mikel Arteta is a long-term project. He's not an established manager. This is the very first coaching role that he has. So he's young, along with a very young team as well. And it really couldn't get any worse. I mean, the team was in shambles anyway. Why not give him a shot? Again, he knows the club. He knows the philosophy. He knows the ideology. Why not give him a chance? And they gave him a chance. And there was immediate change. There was immediate change within the team. First and foremost, Mikel Arteta was not afraid to be vocal on the sideline. You know those moments in games where the crowd is kind of quiet whenever, they're passing the ball around. And you literally just hear that. You just hear, you literally just hear the players passing the ball around. Well, in that Bournemouth-Arsenal game on Boxing Day, you would hear the passing of the ball, and then you would hear Mikel Arteta screaming like, "Oh, come on, Mesut, more pressure," or he would yell at Aubameyang or something like that. So he was vocal, intense on the sideline, translate it to the pitch, because the team was much more intense. They stuck to a formation, which is something that Unai Emery couldn't do throughout his entire reign as Arsenal manager. He would play with a backline of 3, backline of 5, backline of 4. He would play with one striker, with 2. I don't know. He might have even played with a false 9, which is completely idiotic if he did. Don't judge me if he didn't, and I'm just saying this, but I really wouldn't doubt it. Of course, Mikel Arteta stuck to that 4-2-3-1, and something that sticks out like a sore thumb, Mesut Ozil became a regular. He started all 4 games so far at the time that I'm recording this. He has started all 4 games that Mikel Arteta has managed. So it's clear that he wants Mesut Ozil to be his link between the midfield and the attack. And again, the 4-2-3-1 has been a constant throughout the the entirety of these 4 games that Mikel Arteta has managed. And of course, some of the players have returned to their natural positions. Speaking of Mesut Ozil, he's been playing behind the strikers, number 10. Lucas Torreira, of course, he's been playing in that defensive midfielder role that he didn't seem to play when he was managed by Unai Emery. Unai Emery, for whatever reason, had a fascination of Lucas Torreira attacking and being like a second or third striker, which was completely idiotic because you have one of the best defensive midfielders in the Premier League right there, and you have defensive problems, and you're not going to put him. That's a you problem. None of that with Mikel Arteta. Again, they're just much more intense, and the in-game adjustments. I mean, even that game against Leeds in the FA Cup, they played like crap in the first half. It was pretty bad. But then in the second half, who knows what Arteta said? Who knows? Maybe all he could have said was, "Let's be a little bit more intense. Let's get faster to the ball. Let's get all the rebounds, and let's make sure that we impose our will at home." And they did. So, in-game adjustments at halftime. Great coaches do that, not just in soccer, in any sport really. Great coaches will make adjustments in-game or at halftime. But there's still some flaws with Arsenal. It sounds like it's all flowers and roses, and it's not all that pretty. It's really not, because just taking a look at this Arsenal team and watching 3 full games, they have this tendency to play good for only 45 minutes. They play pretty bad usually in the second half, but in the first half they played good. In that FA Cup game, it was the complete opposite. But still, I think it's kind of worrying that they can only play good for 45 minutes. I don't know, a little bit concerning, but I'm pretty sure as time goes on and as these players get adapted to this system, this will completely be a non-factor. And then, of course, 2 of the biggest liabilities that Arsenal has, both defensively. We're talking about David Luiz and Matteo Guendouzi. Sure, David Luiz has been playing actually pretty well in these last couple of games. He's being the leader in that back line, so maybe this criticism doesn't apply to now, but back when, at the beginning of the season, he was an agent for Chelsea playing in an Arsenal jersey. He was playing terrible. And even now, he gets out of position a lot, but that's just in his nature. I guess you have to know what you're getting yourself into. But yeah, and then Matteo Guendouzi, I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's not. He's really not. But he has a temper issue. And it's kind of funny because you just see him having some sort of breakdown in the middle of a game. You know, he doesn't get a tackle or someone dribbles past him and, you know, he goes back and he like tries to break their ankle or something like that. So he needs to control that temper. It wouldn't be a bad idea. It really wouldn't be a bad idea if they send him off somewhere on a loan for a year, make those mistakes in like in the championship or somewhere in Spain with like a mid-table team or something like that. Go make your mistakes over there, then come back when you got all of those mistakes and all of those anger issues out of your system. Arsenal does need a little bit more talent. Let's be honest. We're in the middle of the January transfer window. They need to bring in some defenders, whether it's Upamecano, whether it's Rafa Varane, or even Jerome Boateng for a year, maybe. It would have been an incredible signing in 2014. But right now, I don't think it would be a great signing. But still, they need help regardless. Defensively, this team needs help. And if they do get that help, hot take, if they do get that help, I think that Arsenal could be a top 4 team even this season, let alone next season. Next season, I'm pretty sure they will be a top 4 team. But this season, if they get that defensive help, I am pretty sure this team can scratch and claw for a Champions League spot through the Premier League. If they can't, then, you know, whatever. Just get it through the Europa League. I think it could be a little bit easier if you try to get it through the Europa League. But I think that this team will play Champions League within these next couple of seasons. Arsenal fans, you have a world-class manager. His name is Mikel Arteta. You probably have him for cheap because he's not asking for much. So wages free up. On the coaching side, you can bring in some good players. It's looking good, Arsenal fans. It's looking very good. I'd be excited. Cautiously, but I'd still be excited. I'll get you a little bit more excited. I think that Arsenal wins the Champions League this decade. They could win it in 2023 or 2029. But I think that they are going to win a Champions League in this decade. Baby steps, Arsenal fans. Baby steps.